We have some other celebratory business that we must handle. It's always a rejoicing time when the Lord sees fit to add to the body of Christ.
Amen. Yes, sir.
If young brother Fuller can come up here. Amen. Amen. So a few weeks back, this young brother was, he decided to put the Lord on the baptism.
Yes.
Very well-spoken young man. I had a chance to get to talk to him a little bit, and prayerfully I get a chance to talk to him a lot more. It's always joyous to see young brothers like this come to God.
Yes, sir.
You know, I remember the Bible talks about the fact that Jesus was just an adolescent. He was able to carry a conversation with the rabbis in the synagogue.
Yes.
So, I remember Jesus also said that we should forbid not our little children to come to him.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
And so therefore we are thankful that you decided to make that decision. And so, my young brother, we have a Bible for you. All right. And then we also have a certificate for you so that you never forget that date. That you decided to accept the Lord Jesus Christ as your Savior.
Amen.
I'm not sure if this is Samara Jackson here today. She's not here. Amen. So we're going to put this to the side. We do have that. We know we had baptism last week as well. So, you know, it will be a blessing that we just hand out certificates every single week. Praise God, praise God. You know, we want to continue to keep a number of families in our prayers. We know that there's been some loss. We know that Brother Neil lost his father. We know that Sister Tamika Flowers, the wife of Brother Jeremy Flowers, her grandmother passed. So I was able to attend both of those funerals. But nonetheless, it's very hard to witness it, but I know that it's even harder to experience it. So we want to keep everyone in our prayers as they go through their time of grief. So if you do know these families, be sure to reach out and just continue to be a bit of encouragement to those who are experiencing loss.
Amen.
Amen. We know that God is a good God. We know that God also provides for us. He gives us the ability to live and move and operate on a daily basis.
Yes, sir.
If this is your first time with us, or if you were not here on last week, you know that we have started a new series about the victory that we have in Jesus.
Come on. Amen.
And so we want to continue to encourage each and every one of you to hold fast to the victory that you have in Jesus Christ, because our victory is in no one else except him. You know, before we get to 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7, I want to apologize. My mind was in Corinthians when I was talking to some of the brothers this morning, because I'm using some text in Corinthians, and so I told one brother 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7, and I told another brother 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. But if you look at both of those texts, praise God, they both work out. Amen. Amen. So the Lord knew my heart, praise God, and so we want to continue to pray for one another, especially pray for your preacher. As I give brothers scriptures, I give them the right scripture. And so 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7 is our text today. As many of you may know, I love the sport of football, but I had the pleasure of throwing the shot put in college, and I've always had a love for track and field. I love the competition. I love the fact that at any time, at any track meet, you can do your personal best or improve within every race.
Yes, sir.
One of the great things about track, church, is the fact that when I was in college, my coach, he would make runners train for races that they would never run. In a typical track meet, I may only throw 3 times, but every Monday he would make me throw 150 times. There was 147 more times than I would throw in the prelims of a regular track meet. And typically doing that, what he would do, for instance, if you were a 100-meter runner, he would make you run 200 meters in practice. If you ran the 200, he'd make you run 400s. If you were a mile runner, you might run 2 or 3 miles. Coach would do this to build up your strength so that the race you ran in the track meet was not a physical challenge, because of what you had prepared for and trained for was greater than what you were performing.
Amen.
And so one of the most consistent things about the sport of track and field is the finish line. And that finish line, no matter how long or short the race is, when you do indoor, they have a 50-meter race, but you still have a finish line. In effort for your time to count and to get the reward at the end of the race, one must cross the finish line. No matter how slow you run or how bad your start is, it's up to you to get through the finish line. Okay, y'all catching on, praise God. See, but church, it's the little things that make the most difference in a race. In a relay, how well did you hand the baton off to your partner?
Yes, sir.
In a solo race, were your hands relaxed? I know Sister Abraham can vouch for me on this. Did you stay in your lane? And even though staying in our lane, that's some of our problem, amen? And even though the little things matter, just as much as how fast you can run, it's about your pace.
Yes, sir.
And most importantly, it's about running through the finish line.
Amen.
So Paul writes this letter to young brother Timothy.
Yes, sir.
And he says in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7, that I have fought the good fight.
Yes, sir.
I have finished the race. Depending on your version that you have this morning, I have finished the course. And I have kept the faith. But this book of Timothy is a letter of encouragement and instruction from mentor to mentee. In this specific text, Paul charges Timothy with words of encouragement.
Yes, sir.
The beginning of this chapter starts out, as we all know, preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, convince, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and teaching. He gives Timothy the why, and beginning in verse 6, he explains ever so valiantly why this torch is being passed in such manner.
Yes, sir.
So the verse prior to this, Brother Paul tells Brother Timothy, for I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure is at hand. Paul is not departing from Macedonia, Philippi, or any of those other cities. Paul is about to depart from this earth.
Yes.
That he knows that either by age or by persecution, his life is about to end.
Yes.
And so this figure of speech, if you will, poured out as a drink offering, was a figure of speech used by many apostles and disciples to coin the term to remind people that they were facing such persecution that it was causing them bodily harm. And so the figurative language essentially means that one's blood is being poured out in a violent death for the cause of Christ. So we know that persecution was something that the disciples of Jesus Christ went through. They weren't the most popular people as it pertains to public opinion. If it were today, they would be looked at as people who were threats to American society. If it was today, every time you got on the internet, you would probably see a picture of Paul. You might see a picture of Peter and say that they were ruining the fabric and the culture of what it means to live in America. We're not too far from that today. If we think about it, we see that being a Christian is not the most popular thing to be on today. We have brothers that are walking away from the faith every day. We have people that are deciding that Jesus Christ is no longer enough for them. We have people that are finding resolution in other things besides the gospel. Being a Christian might not be popular, but I'm here to tell you that it is the most liberating and freeing thing known to man.
Amen.
Praise God, somebody.
Yes, sir. Preach.
And so even though the gospel of Christ, even though being a Christian might not be popular today as it was not popular back then, Paul still commends Timothy to do what God has asked him to do.
Amen. Yes, sir.
So this is a saying that spoke to the devotion of Christ.
Yes, sir.
Nonetheless, this suggests by its grammatical tense that this pouring out is currently happening right now, or at least it's certain that Paul is going to die at the expense of following Christ, regardless of the persecution or the violence on his life.
Yeah.
And so he says that my departure is coming. I'm about to die. Essentially, this is Paul telling Timothy that his work is done.
That's right.
He's departing, breaking up with the physical side
Yes, sir.
of life.
Uh-huh.
And one thing that's for certain is that death creates urgency.
That's right.
I'm not saying that there was not a sense of urgency before, but Paul is preparing Timothy for a life without the guidance of his mentor. So as we approach verse 7, we see three things that Paul has done. Fought, finished, and kept. He's fought, he's finished,
Yes, sir.
and he's kept.
Yes.
And I'm just here to say that if I fight, and I finish, and I keep, then I know that God will fight, and finish,
Yes, yes.
and keep.
Yes, amen.
So he's fought or he's struggled in effort to fight the good fight. He's engaged with non-believers. He's taught in synagogues. He's talked to kings and dignitaries. He's trying to teach the gospel to everybody that he's come in contact with. Encourage believers in effort to fight. Paul knew that there needed to be some engagement. Sometimes the race we are running requires that we have some fight in us.
Amen.
And if we are going to be victorious in this life as Christians, church, we're going to have to fight sometimes.
Amen.
But we got to fight the good fight. Amen.
Amen.
Paul fought a good fight. What are you fighting for this morning rather than what are you fighting against? He fought a good fight. We have to fight for our families, not with our families. We have to fight for the church, not with the church. We have to fight for the community, for those who cannot fight for themselves. We can't oppress those who we deem weak or less than. It's not about what you're doing, it's about who you're doing it to. Amen, somebody. When we think about this good fight, we have to fight for one another, not with one another. That's why it's called a good fight. Paul was able to fight alongside Jesus, fight alongside Timothy, fight alongside the church to show people that he was willing and resilient enough to say, even though you might persecute me, I'm still going to keep fighting for Jesus. You might talk about me, I'm still going to keep fighting for Jesus. I've been shipwrecked, snake bitten, and abused. I'm still going to keep fighting for Jesus. That's why he was able to say, it's a good fight. How are you fighting this morning? Not who are you fighting with, but what are you fighting for? Are you fighting for Jesus? Are you fighting for Christ? Are you fighting for I mean, not against the church, but with the church so that the gospel moves forward. So he coins this fight as good. So let us know that when you coin something good, what you're saying is that there is a high level of purpose or attractiveness in its outward appearance. Yeah. I come home, amen, somebody, and my wife looks good, praise God. All right. That means that in her outward appearance, that she looks pleasing unto my eye. If I go into the kitchen, I'm trying to help somebody today. If I go into the kitchen and I open up one of them pots and I see something in there, Brother Williams, that looks good, that means that it is attractive in its outward appearance.
Yes, sir.
And so you have to ask yourself, how is a fight attractive in its outward appearance? Well, if you think about how Paul fought, it made it look attractive. He didn't have to seek revenge on anybody. He was able to forgive folk. From the outside looking in, you might say, that's not attractive at all. But let me tell you something. Freedom is attractive. And when you forgive folk, you are freeing yourself from all of the hurt and the pain. That's attractive, amen. When you think about the saving power of the gospel, that someone can walk down here a sinner and leave looking like Jesus, that's attractive, amen, somebody. When you think about somebody can go into the hospital not knowing if they're going to come out with none of the diseases that they went in with. God's miracles are attractive. So, the way that Paul fought made the fight free from defects. It allowed Paul to keep high standards or expectations of a high appearance or quality. He writes in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24 through 27, do you not know that all those who run in a race, they all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it, and everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but we an imperishable crown. Therefore I run thus, not with uncertainty thus I fight, not as one who beats the air, but I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. Then again, Paul writes in Philippians chapter 3, verse 13 and 14, brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting the things which are behind and reaching forward to those that are ahead, I press toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of Christ Jesus. Listen to what Paul is saying. He's saying the only way that I can receive this crown, the only way that I can receive this blessing is if I cross the finish line. I can't get my crown if I don't cross the finish line. And in order to cross the finish line, I got to fight the good fight. It's coming together, y'all. So we see that Paul is letting us know that winners stand firm regardless of the adversity or the tragedy. Rejoice begins with outlook. How you perceive your situation will determine how you will rejoice in said situation. When I perceive something to be of benefit, I maintain a positive outlook. See, then Paul transitions in this text. Not only has he fought the good fight, but the Bible says that he has finished his race, or his course, depending on the translation that you have. The crown is given once the race is complete. So once the race is finished, now it's time to reflect and adjust properly to defend your title or prepare to run again in an effort to ensure the work does not stop. I have finished my race. It is the completion. It is complete. And I have carried out my task. You know, I think about that word finished. And I remember another man said that it is finished.
Come on, preacher.
I remember another man by the name of Jesus Christ.
Yes,
said,
sir.
it is finished. And finishing his race changed the entire world.
Amen. Yes, sir. That's all
Just
right.
like Brother Dixon read to you this morning, John chapter 19, verse 30, the Bible says, so when Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, it is finished. And bowing his head, he gave up the spirit. He completed his task. He completed his race. He showed everyone that while he was on the cross, while he was being beaten, while he had a crown of thorns on his head, he could still forgive somebody. He could still call on God. He could still fulfill his purpose, even though he was in a place of trial and tribulation. Jesus finished his task. He became the sacrifice for the world to see. One thing we have to remember as Christians is, just like Jesus, we have to finish strong. Somebody needs help this morning. Our finish line might not be nails in our hands, but we still have to finish strong. Our finish line might not be a crown of thorns on our head, but we still have to finish strong, because the only way we receive the crown of righteousness is if we finish and finish strong. I've seen so many races. I imagine you've seen so many races. I remember one time watching the Olympics, Gail Devers got off to a real good start, and she got about 5 meters from the finish line, and she fell all the way back to 8th place. Listen, if you don't finish strong, you might set yourself up to not win the race at all. It makes no sense to start well and to run well in the middle of the race just to get to the end and crumble and fall. I know it gets tough. That bear gets on your back the last 10 meters, but you still got to finish strong. You might be frustrated, feeling annihilated and depleted this morning, but you still got to finish strong, because the only way that you receive that victorious crown of life is if you finish strong. So it's my substance of things hoped for.
Yes, yes.
The only way that I get the crown of life is if I finish the race. The only way I'm strong enough to finish the race is if I fight the good fight. The only way I have strength to fight a good fight is if I keep the faith.
Amen.
So understand that faith, or in its original language, pistis, is a range of subjective confidence to an objective basis for that confidence. What do you mean, preacher? Well, it's my substance of the things I hope for in effort to stand tall in the midst of not always seeing with my physical eye what I need to see to ensure that God is really there.
Yes, sir.
Keeping the faith means walking by faith, but not refraining from obeying God no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's hopefulness that is sustained by a foundational truth.
Yeah.
I have hope in God because I've seen God work.
Yes.
I have hope in God because I understand how God has blessed my life. So I hold fast to my obedience. I hold fast to my faith because I know who God is. See, in this instance, when Paul says keep the faith, he's not just saying remaining hopeful. He's saying while you're fighting, while you're running, you still have to remain obedient to the gospel of Jesus Christ. He is saying, I've kept my commitment to God. The faith that we're talking about is a guarantee. It is a surety. It is assurance to let me know that if I do what I need to do for the cause of Christ, there is an assurance, a victorious eternity on the other side of life that I will be fortunate enough to receive, not because I'm worthy, not because of what I've done on this earth, but because of the grace and mercy of God.
Amen.
And so this is why Paul can say in Acts chapter 6, verse 7, then the word of God spread, and the number of disciples multiplied greatly in Jerusalem, and a great many of the priests were obedient to the faith. Their objective hopefulness, their subjective hopefulness had an objective foundation. Then again in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 5, we know that text, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. We know that text, don't we? Yeah. Amen. We've been hearing that since way back. Praise God. Then in Jude, verse 3, Jude only has one chapter. The Bible says, beloved, while I was very diligent to write to you concerning your common salvation, I found it necessary to write to you, exhorting you to contend earnestly for the faith, which was once for all delivered to the saints. Faith is an assurance. It is a guarantee. It's the guarantee the gospel of Jesus Christ can save. It's a guarantee that there is a blessing in obedience. It's a guarantee that forgiveness, grace, and mercy is available to all mankind. So in order to receive the crown, it's not only given when the race is complete. Understand that you can complete the race and still get disqualified. Listen, Paul writes, says, finally, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day. And not to me only, but all those who have loved his appearing. So in track, you might have different races and different distances to run, but the finish line stays the same. Listen, some of us run marathons in life. It just seems like we can't stop running. Some of us, we run 100, we finish, we good, life is over, everybody's happy, we move on and we keep going, amen? Well, some of us got some decathlons of life, amen? We get done with one race and here come Coach God says, son, I need you to run another race, amen? You get done with that race, he said, listen, I got another race for you. But listen, he allows us to do that because not only does he know what we can handle, but he also knows what the team needs. Amen. Amen. And so it's being a body of Christ, right? Sometimes some folk will have to do a little bit more to make sure the team gets to where they need to get. Understand, the finish line doesn't change. The distance changes, but the finish line doesn't change. And no matter what race you're running this morning, your finish line doesn't change. And the judge of this spiritual track meet doesn't change. That judge is God, and he's waiting for us to finish so that he can present us with the crown of righteousness. In order to get that crown, I have to keep running until I hit the finish line. You know, the 100 is a sprint.
That's right.
Real fast. Fast people. Usain Bolt run 100 meters in 9 seconds. Take me 9 seconds to tie my shoe. Remember a friend of mine, Kendrick Singleton. I went to college with him. We was on the track team together. Young brother ran a 20-pointer in the 200. It didn't even look like his feet were touching the ground. And now these brothers are so athletic, the 400 is a sprint.
That's right.
But some of us run marathons. Some of us run long distances. But regardless of the race, the finish line stays the same. And if I want that crown of righteousness for everyone who finishes with keeping the faith, we all have a finish line. The reward is either crown or condemnation. So in keeping the faith, I have to remain faithful until death.
Amen.
And because I don't know where death is,
Come on, preacher. Come on.
I don't let up.
Yes, sir.
I don't stop running. I keep fighting for the cause of Christ. I keep telling folk about the goodness of Jesus Christ. I keep sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. I keep inviting people to church. I keep inviting folk to Bible study. I keep talking about Jesus everywhere that I go because I never know where my finish line is. So then the writer in Revelation chapter 2 verse 10 says, do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you in prison, that you may be tested. And you will have tribulation 10 days. But he says, be faithful.
Amen.
Until death. And I will give you the crown of life. I remember our dear brother James once said in James chapter 1, verse 12, blessed is the man who endures temptation, for when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to those who love him.
Amen.
So we have to rely on the gospel.
Yes, sir.
To be our change agent.
Come on.
The lifesaver and the guide of our life. That is the faith, the substance of our hopefulness. The only way I can reach the finish line is if I run according to the way God has instructed.
Amen.
Regardless of the distance. There's only one way to run. And that one way to run is with Jesus.
Amen.
So regardless of what you're going through today, run with Jesus, church.
Amen.
Run with Jesus. These races seem long in life, don't they? You keep going around the same track of problems. A track of problems of life, amen. Some of our tracks of sickness, tracks of brokenheartedness. Some of our tracks are tracks of infidelity, tracks of abuse, tracks of trauma. We're running around these tracks of life just waiting for God to say, you're done, you can stop. But just understand and know that as you keep running, there's somebody on the sideline.
Yes, sir.
That is watching you run. Because they know that they're going to have to run around the same track. And they want to be able to run with the same vigor. They want to be able to reach the same finish line. They want to be able to look up and say, I'm running because I saw you run. And I saw you run. And you didn't give up, and I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep running because I know without a shadow of a doubt, if I keep running, I'll be victorious because God is at the end of the finish line waiting to present me with a crown. I believe we want the victory, but do we want to put in the work to get the victory? He says, I fought the good fight. I finished the race. And I've kept the faith. Hold on to it. Hold on to it. Just keep holding on. If you're not a Christian this morning, understand that faith saves you.
Yes, sir.
The gospel of Jesus Christ is a change agent in your life that will bring salvation unto your life.
Yes, sir.
Listen, understand the power of the gospel. I'm unashamed of it because I know the power of it.
That's right. Come on.
Listen and understand that my belief in the gospel allows me to live my life in a way that is pleasing unto God, that allows me the pride, the power, and the dignity to exclaim the holy name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Baptism is an invitation of obedience that allows me to become one with Christ Jesus. And if I live faithfully, I will receive my crown.
Amen.
I believe we're all here because we want a crown. I believe we're all here because we desire not only to finish our race, but to finish our race and have God standing at the finish line to say, well done, thy good and faithful
Amen.
servant. Let us stand, let us sing. The Savior's invitation. Right now is your time. Will you come? Will you come?